In today's video, I want to have a little bit of a discussion about the quote-unquote perfect theme park in Park Beyond. And this is something that's kind of directed towards the developers, as well as anyone that's curious about this game's performance, the ins and outs, the pros and cons of the theme park management system. So to get started, what we're looking at here is a bit of a spoiler. This is a bonus mission that is unlocked after you beat the campaign. And just a fun fact, even though it's a spoiler, only 1% of the player base has actually unlocked that, as according to Steam achievements. To get this, only 1% of players have this unlocked, and that is likely because of the struggles that people are facing with this theme park management systems, and that goes into the whole perfect park discussion. What's going on behind the scenes? What's the problems with the game? What needs to be buffed? What needs to be nerfed? All those different things playing together are making the campaign either frustrating or overly challenging. Now, every game should have an element of challenge, and every game should have an element of fun. With a theme park simulation game, if we go back to games like RCT1, they weren't that hard to complete the scenarios. The hardest scenarios are the ones where you had like Dinky Park, or where you had to build in a tiny area and actually build vertically, or you had to build on a cliffside, or you had really narrow areas. The challenging parks were the ones that gave you certain limitations in terms of where you could build and why. The challenge in this game has been completely added to that of which is the management. So as you can see here, I have a pretty good park, but we're making a negative loss of 5,000 per month. Now, while in the previous mission, you needed a monthly income of $10,000, which I find is extremely frustratingly hard, and it's easy to accomplish that with a smaller park than a larger park. The larger your park, the more money you'll lose for whatever reason. Something scales out of hand so poorly. The perfect park would be a square with food all around it on the inside and out. Then all of your flat rides are on the outside. That way the guests only have to walk around a square to get to queues, to get to food, and then you're only paying for a limited amount of shops. The moment you start spreading out your park, you're going to need shops here, shops here, shops here, shops here, shops here, shops here. You get the idea. Whereas I can get the same amount of theme park stuff all around one square and cut my shops in a third. But Johnny, why do we need so many shops? The guest needs in this game are atrocious. So if we're looking at their needs, there are people leaving my park. There's a bunch of unhappy people, but this is ideally the perfect park. As you can see, when we walk into the park, there's bathrooms, there's shops, there's staff facilities, food, treats, every type of food you could possibly think of, every type of drink you could possibly think of, with vending machines around the outside, with bathrooms. And if they walk 2 feet, there's a whole nother setup just like that. We walk another 2 feet, there's a whole nother setup just like that. And again, and again, and again. The guests cannot travel in this game for more than 10 meters or something without running into critical thirst, critical hunger, getting bored, losing amazement, you name it, they run out of it the moment they have to walk. Their energy levels, like they need benches everywhere, and it's just absolutely insane how needy the guests actually are. If I have less shops, this bar is going to skyrocket through the roof. So now you can see with my setup, it's quite ideal. A lot of people are satisfied. Well, then why aren't you making a profit? Well, we do have a lot of staff, and in this example, it's a bit of a bad example because I do have a lot of staff. But what is the purpose of this? Look how many entertainers I have. So if you look at the fun rating, build rides to have fun. I have every ride you could possibly build in the game currently at a level 6 park. I cannot build any more. Then what else does the checklist have? Get more visitors and rides. Okay, we have the max amount of visitors that you can get at this level of a park. I could get 100 more, but it goes up and down because groups are leaving in droves because there's not enough food or drinks. There is way too many food and drink to a point where I'm actually losing money on food and drinks. So, and then what's the next thing they need? Treat nausea. Well, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of paramedics, right? And then hire more entertainers. I have so many entertainers. They're all impossified. It's absolutely insane. And then last but not least, improve and impossify entertainers. Every single one of my entertainers is impossified. So even though we're at a net loss because we have unlimited cash on this scenario, I purposely wasn't looking to make money off this park. So therefore, I can hire a lot of entertainers. So my goal here wasn't to make money, but instead make fun, right? Fun rating. This is the perfect amount of fun you can have. It's like all the shops you could need, all the rides you could need, all the entertainers, all the staff, to a point where majority of the people are satisfied. So how come my park's not leveling up? The park appeal is not good enough. The park is super cleanliness. I have a cleanliness rate of 94, an average happiness of 93, and there's not enough fun here to level up Sophia's lab. And in order to expand and, fill in this empty spot here, this empty spot here, and so on and so forth, I need to get to a park level 6. That's just not possible at this point without the perfect layout. Like I said, with the perfect layout being all the shops in the middle and all of the rides around that. But with this weird flying area, I have to build within these boxes and work with what I have. Therefore, I can't make the quote-unquote perfect park, but I can still load it up with everything that it needs because I have unlimited money. But because it's not all in one dense area, the fun factor is being distributed and spread out throughout the park to a point where it's no longer deemed fun. From my previous scenarios, I think the highest park level I ever got was 11, which is pretty crazy, but I did it with a park, like all of this stuff was basically in one area that was smaller than this. I did it in a smaller area, more dense, and it was more compact. Therefore, my balance was also in a positive where I could make more money. So the less is more is what I'm trying to say. And there are certain things that need to be looked at in terms of like balance, things being buffed, and that sort of thing. So on a park map like this, where you can't just make the quote unquote perfect layout where it's all super compact and you're forced to work in constraints, suddenly you're unable to progress the game any further. This bar has not moved, and I have as much, like, I don't even know, like, can we just hire like 60 more entertainers to increase the fun factor? And this is what I'm saying, the more distance the guests have to travel, the more distance the employees have to travel, then the more the fun is spread out. So you need more of everything, but having more of everything puts you into debt more and more and more. So I really wanted to have a discussion about the balance of the game and those certain things. This park in particular, I did not adjust the prices, and that is one annoying thing. I think with RCT1, you didn't really have to adjust the prices that much. You could just put stuff down. The roller coasters made so much money that you didn't really have to worry too much about like nickel and diming people over little things. This game, in order for me to beat the last mission of the game, which is having monthly income of 10,000 per month, which was extremely frustrating to do, I literally had to go into every single shop and adjust the prices, like, okay, 50 cents here, and wait and see if they give it like a thumbs down or not. And I had to push every single shop to the absolute brink of where they're just okay to pay for it, and they're not like overly happy about it or whatever. And I had to do that for every single shop, every single flat ride, everything in the game. I had to budget my staff, and that could seem fun to you, right? Like, oh, well, are you complaining that you had to manage? Well, not really. I don't mind doing that, and I did it for every single scenario. It did become a bit of a drag, but like now that we're on like a sandboxy open world map, it just goes to show if you don't micromanage everything and you just leave everything at its default prices, no matter how good your park is, you're always going to lose money. And that's where the game becomes extremely frustrating, because there's about, like, I think, you should at least break even or make a profit without adjusting prices. The average person, especially playing on a console, is not going to want to click on this, go into this tab, then go click down, and then like push up on their D-pad, and adjust all these prices, 5 cents at a time on every single food shop, every single stall, every single item in the game for every single scenario and every single mission. You should at least be able to put stuff down and make a profit. The people who micromanage everything and try to balance stuff should then be rewarded more for that. And I think the difference between just putting everything down stock, which is successful, and somebody that micromanages and tweaks everything and pushes it to the limit before the guests get fed up, those people that push everything should make maybe about 50% to double the income of an average player that doesn't adjust anything. That way, if you don't feel like adjusting anything, you can still have a successful park. But the last mission of the game goes to show that not only do you have to adjust everything, you make one mistake and you will lose the mission. You expand a little bit too much, you'll lose the mission. I was showing how I had the perfect park in the last mission at 8,000 income, but I just wasn't making enough, and I had every everything dialed up perfectly. All the rides at the max money, all the shops at the max money, everything at the max money. But then I was like, I think I just need a few more rides. That's all. And then I expanded, added in a few rides, added in a few shops, and we dropped to negative 2,000 gold. It was like I dispersed the people too much to the point where everything bankrupted me. And I was like, wow, that tiny little adjustment that I made was so extreme that I basically had to reload my save. And from there, I just had to cheese the map and beat it by firing all my staff. Firing all my staff gave me a monthly income of like $3,000 more, and I was able to beat the map. So it was like I was at this critical threshold where I had such a perfect, compact little park that was the best money you could ever make. And expanding out more and more and more would actually make you lose money. And that's where the game is so spiky. It's so spiky. The more spread out you get, the harder the game becomes. But the problem is the game is already at its max difficulty with a small park like this. And your most profitable park is tiny. And then you go out a little bit further and you've sabotaged your monthly income. And, because you need more janitors to walk around the park. You need more entertainers. You need more of everything because everybody's spread out. And the moment somebody walks up here and they're away from any shops and they got to walk from here all the way here to get to shops and you don't have something in between, they will get so furious that they will your graph will be red, and you'll go to your heat maps and go, oh, it's all of these people that are tired, thirsty, hungry. They have to have food shops about from here to here, that's already too much space. I've already created a problem here. You need to have food shops side by side all the way to the end of your park. And it's just too punishing. It's way too punishing. So a lot of the values in the game need to be adjusted. And that's where I think a lot of buffs, the biggest culprit is the coasters. And I've showed this in previous videos and throughout my campaign. I just stopped making coasters in this game. You can make the best coaster in the world that makes $26 per person, but the throughput is awful and the coaster is considered abandoned. Nobody likes to go on coasters in this game until you have at least about 2,000 guests. And even when you have 2,000 guests and you put a coaster down, only then is that coaster breaking even. I think the best profitable coaster I ever made was like $100 a month. It's just absolutely insane how little profit the coasters give and how much the risk they are. If you build a coaster early on, it's just going to cost you so much money. It's absolutely ridiculous. So like the prices of coasters need to be buffed. The interest of the guests need to be buffed. There needs to be some alleviated stress on how thirsty, like they when they drink something, they should stay thirst quenched for much, much longer than they do. When they eat something, they shouldn't have to grab a burger, walk 3 feet and grab a hot dog, walk 3 feet and grab a burrito, walk 3 feet and grab a pizza. It's just way too much. And the game just Thanos snapped me. All the AI just stops working periodically, and then they won't buy food anymore, and all the shops will stop working, and then you'll just go bankrupt. That happens almost every single mission for me. It's just absolutely insane. So that's a bug that needs to be addressed, but I just wanted to highlight that here. The main focus of this video should be that of things being tuned and buffed. So another thing is like this ride here, not a lot of people getting in queue, but see, the profit is actually at a net loss. It's just like having this in your park it's costing you money. There's not enough people interested in this, even if I'm being fair with the price. The throughput's really low. It takes a long time to load up, and not many people want to go on it. And as a result, you lose money. And this is the case for many flat rides. A lot of my queues are empty. A lot of people aren't going on certain rides, and this is a problem with expanding. That's what I was trying to say, is like, if I would have kept this park small and had less rides, it would be fine. You don't need this many rides until you get to about 3,000 guests. But I can't get to 3,000 guests unless I level up my park level, because that increases the max amount of visitors. So how did I get to level 11 on the previous missions is what I was saying, is I made a super tight and efficient park. But I was forced to expand on this park to make room for the more rides, because this park has no space. And as a result, I've come to an area where I can't go on. So the only way to fix this is to delete or shut down a bunch of rides so that so people don't come over here. But then what happens is you have so many people in this area, like just packed paths. There's so many people, and they can't actually get to the food they want. And that's when you get the giant red bar of unhappy guests because there's so many people in one area that the shops are so busy that they can't get their food. So you need to spread the park out so that you could spread the guests out. But by doing that, all of your shops are going to cost you a lot of money, and all of the rides are going to get very little action because it's too long of a walk in between. And the guests in this game currently, they're spending 90% of their time walking from shop to shop to shop to shop because they get so thirsty, they get so hungry, and they need an ATM or they need to sit down on the bench. And as you can see, like all my queues are empty because they're spending that time walking, and their little meters are just like plummeting as they walk along. And that means like their focus is like, okay, I need to find a bathroom, I need to find a food shop, I need to find this or that. And most of the guests in the park, like I think there's a way to check. If we go to here and you look at the preferred rides, the average guest is riding 7 rides in the time they've been here. And that's because they spent 90% of their time buying food. And as a result, your rides cost you money. So the only way to do it is to have all of your shops in one area so that they don't have to walk very far, and then all of your rides in one area. And that's where like the game becomes punishing. That's where I think a lot of buffs need to be implemented into the game in terms of like balance and design. One of the biggest aspects of a theme park game is expanding, right? Even this map is like expand to all these platforms. And I don't know, unless I'm terrible at this game and after beating the campaign and only 1% of players in the world have actually beaten the campaign, I would consider myself to be one of the top 1% best players at this game. And yet I always run into these issues where I'm like, oh, I'm hard stuck. And if I restarted this mission, I could probably find a way to get to, park level 11 before I expand. But the moment you expand, there's no hope of getting to park level 12 and so on and so forth because of the problems that come with expanding. So to summarize things, I think the developers need to take a long look at how, buffing how much the rides generate, buffing the interests of people going into the rides. Their priorities need to be that of riding rides in a theme park game and not so much, food and thirst and all that. I think having like a food court here, and one there should be more than enough. I shouldn't have to line food courts all the way up and down my paths. It makes it really cumbersome for the player to actually fit any room in for theming. Like if I wanted to theme anything in this game, I can't because it's all taken up by food shops and restaurants and queues and benches and garbage bins and like where am I gonna actually do some theming? Okay, like a little bit here and there, maybe around the queues just in these little empty spots. There's not very many empty spots because that's how much stuff I needed to place. And if I get rid of these shops, there's gonna be hell to pay over here. So I think just like if the guests are like critically hungry, they should be okay with walking from this side of the park to this side of the park to go get some food. And with that, suddenly we run into a thing where then you run into the problem of the shops not making a profit. So I understand that they try to tune things this way. So what needs to be addressed is like maybe the price of the upkeep isn't as high for the shops themselves, and the guests are willing to go longer without actually buying food and drink or travel further to get it. Or you could speed up the rate of which they serve the guests or something. There's a lot of things. I don't know what the proper solution is, but I am just pointing out all of the problems that you run into. Building up that fun rating needs to be easier. This Impossification amazement thing, I've impossified that ride, and maybe a couple shops. And one of the strategies is because if you impossify a shop, this little thing will like pulsate and generate amazement. So if you kind of use them as like, I guess like buffing towers, put one here, have one somewhere around here, one here, then it's gonna generate amazement from your guests in these areas. And I like that strategy, but it's not enough. I've in the previous map, I impossified everything in the park and my profits did not go up. My amazement did not go up. My fun did not go up. Nobody gave a shit about anything. They're just like, whatever. And I impossified every single shop in the game and the amazement bar just still fills up like a turtle. Like I think I did the math in the beta and it hasn't changed since. I think it's like every even if you're on fast forward, I think you get one amazement every 5 to 10 minutes. And if it costs 5 to do a ride, you're looking at every 30 to like 30 minutes to every half an hour to an hour, you can impossify a ride. That's just not enough. That's just not going to fly, in my opinion. Like, the whole idea is to impossify rides and see them just be absolutely incredible. And you're only doing that once an hour or so, maybe once or twice an hour. And you still have to do it to your janitors, your staff, your shops. So it's like you have to pick and choose. And I understand the challenge of picking and choosing, but like I can do 10 staff an hour, which is going to make big changes on my park, or I could do like one flat ride. And it's like that one flat ride does not have a big enough impact when this is impossified and nobody really wants to go on it anyways. So like, what was the point in impossifying that? When you impossify something, everyone should want to go on that and they should want to pay top dollar for that ride. And that's where you're like, oh man, I impossified a ride, my monthly income went up by like 1,000, like everyone's attracted to it. Not only is it punishing that you get the impossification juice so few and far between, but when you finally use it, it hits like a wet noodle. It has almost no impact on your park whatsoever. So the whole concept of impossifying things, creating that fun factor, creating amazement for the guests, you know, all that stuff, it doesn't really have any impact. It doesn't have a payoff. It doesn't have a fun factor for the person engaging and playing in the game. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Everything is too slow and too punishing at that. The best parks in this game are the tiny little circular parks. And for me, the smallest parks that I've ever made was the only way for me to get to park level 11. And when I start to go big and crazy and start having fun with the game, I get hard stuck because I can't get any more rides because I need to research them. And this entire 24 minutes that I've been talking for in this video, you guys have seen this bar hasn't gone up even a notch. Not even a notch. It's heartbreaking. It's saddening to see. And I made enough amazement to impossify one shot in this whole time of me talking. And that is the average player's experience, is going, in order for me to expand, I need more fun rating. Then I expanded, and now everything's so spread out that the fun has distributed, like, you know, it's dispersed. It's like if I took a glass of red dye and dumped it into the ocean. The ocean's just going to swallow it up. That glass of red dye is the fun factor in this game. You're dropping it into the ocean. It makes almost no impact. But when you drop a glass of red dye into a sink of water, the sink of water turns red. So that's the fun factor is distributed heavily in a small, dense area. And that's the only way to actually successfully make a park in this game, quote unquote, the perfect park, to bring it all back around. And anything other than a perfectly circular, compact park where everything is tweaked and the numbers are dialed in, most likely you're going to fail at every single campaign scenario and even sandbox. If you have the research turned on, you might not even be able to progress in sandbox. So the only way to actually play this game is to give yourself unlimited everything. But even when you do that, amazement is not unlimited. You have to build it up one at a time, you know, impossifying like one or two things an hour. And even in sandbox mode, you're like, when you build this massive mega park in sandbox mode, you're looking at probably 50 to 100 hours of gameplay, maybe even more, 200 hours of gameplay to actually impossify everything in the park. And I just think that's just like the balance of this game has not been looked at. It has not been dialed. And being one of the only 1% of players to have gotten this far in the game and being like a top 1% player and still finding all the time that I get hard stuck and I go, oh man, I got to like rethink this and redo this. I lost on a creative level. I can't go any further. And it's like, wow, it just blows my mind. And that's where it's like, do you want your game to be challenging or do you want it to be fun? And honestly, I don't think a game like this needs to be challenging. Most people just want to decorate. Most people don't want to worry about like their meters and failing and this and that. I think that the campaign can be challenging all on its own, even if everything was buffed by like 100% or even 300, 400, 500%. Because most people that are playing these campaign missions, including myself, we've all failed them for reasons that weren't our own, like bugs, game-breaking bugs, issues, incomplete features, and we lose the missions missions. And then when we actually try to do things properly and we don't run into bugs, we end up losing anyways because the income's not good enough or the guests aren't happy enough. We can't unlock that next lab research. There's just so many roadblocks along the way preventing you from having fun that even if everything was buffed, I don't think it would matter because most people aren't playing this to like for the challenge. They want to make this Western area. And then when they make that Western area, they run out of funds, they run out of lab research, they run out of this, or their guests get stuck at a vending machine and then all the AI breaks. They just made this Western town and they have to reload their save to a point of which was before they did that Western town. And it's just heartbreaking. Let people just be creative. Take the stress off of the micromanagement part of the game or alleviate it somewhat, make it somewhat challenging, but not like insanely punishing to the way it is currently in the game where you get hard stuck over and over and over again. Just, I think if it was a lot easier or even just like infinitely easier, most people would just be like, oh, this game is fun because they're not running into these roadblocks. They're constantly, oh, another research came up. Let me see what I got now. Oh, I got the Western bundle. Okay, let me like go make a Western area. Oh, I just unlocked the alien planet stuff while building my Western stuff. Okay, let me unlock this alien planet stuff. And then when I'm done my Western area, I'm going to go build that. Then I'm working on that that alien stuff. Oh, I just unlocked, you know, the Da Vinci theme. Great. Let's go do that next. And you're going to be so distracted at like having fun, being creative, decorating, building stuff. And you're like, oh, I'm making enough money to pay for it all. And oh, my coaster has traffic and people are loving my coaster. Those are the things that if they were all buffed, I think people would just naturally have fun. And that's where I think the challenge aspect of this game was way too heavily focused on. But I think the challenge is good if it wasn't counteracted by how many bugs are in this game. As I said, a lot of the missions in this campaign were hard. Like that last mission was extremely hard. But a lot of it is systems not working properly, bugs, making it even harder. And if all the systems were working properly and everything was balanced properly and everything was tuned properly, I still think that last mission would be pretty hard, as well as all the other missions in the campaign. So for the average player, the casual player, the dad gamer that only has a few hours a day, a few hours a week to play the game, they're gonna get like really, really frustrated with things. I don't think that needs to be the focus. Park Beyond is about going beyond, impossifying things. We have no impossification juice. I've impossified maybe 5 things in this park, and I've been playing this park for 4 hours. And technically, if this was a scenario, I'd be bankrupt right now. I would have lost. And I'm also hard stuck on my laboratory upgrades. So it's like I can't proceed anymore from here. So the average dad gamer is going to go like, screw this. I'm done with this game. To my previous point, it's all about going above and beyond in Park Beyond. Why can't I go beyond this point? Why is it that hard that this 30-minute video that I've been talking, I have not generated any fun? And adding more entertainers did not fix that. I can't impossify anything to increase, like if I impossified this ride, it would become more fun. But like 30 minutes, I've gotten 3 bars. Sure, I can go fast forward, but then you get audio bugs and it starts tearing and your game crashes and guests get stuck. So that needs to be looked at too. Anyways, that's my rant. I just wanted to like put it all out there. A lot of these systems need to be looked at from the top down, like the coasters, the rides, the shops, the balancing, the tuning, the distance traveled, like literally every aspect of this game needs to be looked at. And I tried to not leave anything out, but there's like, I know I left something out. There's something in the management system. Oh, the goals, like some of these goals are impossible. Like this guy wanted me to make 4 successful coasters. I can't make 1 successful coaster in this game. Like some of these goals are just like ridiculously hard because of the system's not working. And that's where I say like everything needs to be looked at from the top down. This game needs to be focus tested and put back into beta. I just did that for you. There's the list of things to improve. Just buff everything across the board. Just go in there, turn the dials up, and I think the game will be somewhat fun again, and then fix the bugs. And I think, you know, everyone will have a more enjoyable time with the campaign, with the progression systems, and get less frustrated when they see, like when you see these red bars all across the board when you're playing a mission and you thought you were doing good. Oh boy, that is frustrating. And even now, I have the most satisfied park you could ever have, but it doesn't make a profit, and it doesn't build fun, and it doesn't build amazement. So again, I'm one of the only 1% of players to make it this far into the game, and I constantly run into these issues. Is it me or is it the game? That's where you have to ask yourself at the point. And I just wanted to make this video to say these are the things that I think need to be looked at. And upon tweaking them and upon fixing them, buffing the coasters, I look forward to hopping back into this game and playing it the way it's meant to be played, because I don't really think that this was the intention, where people constantly get hard stuck. I don't think that was the intention at all, and I feel bad for the developers that it got pushed out the door so quickly without them having time to really dial it in. But yeah, that's it for me in this video. I wanted to address all that feedback, leave it at that. So good luck to the developers tuning this stuff. When it gets fixed, please do let us know on the Steam message board when the game gets updated. Like, you can send out a notification on Steam saying massive update to Park Beyond. I keep a look at those things on my homepage. I'll definitely be looking through all of the patch notes. And when a big patch comes out in terms of fixing bugs and balance, I will definitely jump back into this game, check it all out, take a good look at it. And if that turns it all around to a point where I can have a lot of fun, you get a double thumbs up from me. And as a result, I will go back to making tons and tons of fun content on this game. But at this point, every time I try to make some content, I run into an issue that prevents me from going further. I'm kind of over it at this point. So that's where it ends for me. Okay, that's everything I wanted to say. Long-winded rant from me. Buff the game, fix the bugs. When that all happens, you guys will be the first to know from me that the game is now fun and playable. So just doing my job here, guys. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Okay, I'll see you all in the next video.